Good afternoon, my name's Mark Hartley. Today here at Hartley Boats we're going to show you how to rig your new Hartley Wayfarer. So here in front of me we have a Mark IV Wayfarer. The first thing that you need to do when rigging the boat is make sure that there's nothing in it that shouldn't be in it. Secondly, before we go to look at the mast, we need to make sure that the tabernacle area here is clear. So first of all, what you need to do is take the tabernacle pin out. This is a split ring. You need to take that off, put it somewhere safe so you don't lose it in the grass. Then take the washer off. Again, you need to put that safe. The pin will then pull out to the port side. At the bottom here, there's a pin in the mast step, and you've got to make sure that in front of that pin there's no ropes or anything like that, because they will stop the mast going in. So it's important just to check this area is clear before you go and start looking at the mast. What I then do before we get the mast to here, especially if I'm rigging the boat on my own, is I will take the pins out of the two shrouds so that they're ready to go in, and I'm not trying to do this when the mast is blown around. So I'm just going to remove those now so that we're ready for the mast to be put in. So there's that one, and I'll come around and do the other one. Okay, so they're out now. Now what we're ready to do, if the boat's clear, is have a look at the mast and prep the mast ready for going up. So if we walk over to the mast, what's really important when you're doing this is to make sure that the ropes aren't all twisted, so that when you put the mast in, they're at the wrong side of the mast gate or anything like that. So first off, I'm just going to release some of the ropes that are a little bit twisted on this. Now, it's worth bearing in mind when you're doing this, and this is a common mistake, at this stage, this is the right time, if you have a hawk or a burgi, to put the hawk or the burgi on the top of the mast. We're not going to put one on today, but if you have one, it's a good idea to do that this time. So I'm checking that the jib halyard is free, I'm checking that the main halyard is free. I'm going to untwist these shrouds, and this particular mast has got trapeze wires on, so it's going to make it a little bit more difficult for me. But I'm going to untwist these so that when we put the mast in, I'm not trying to do this single-handed. Okay, so that one's free, the other one's free. The jib halyard here at the minute is twisted around the spinnaker halyard, so I'm just going to untwist that, and I'm going to attach that jib halyard back onto the front of the mast so that I know when we get the mast up it's not going to be flying away in the air. Again, you've got the forestay here, and I'm going to put that the correct side of the mast. Okay. So once we've got this mast to this stage, there's a couple of different ways that you can step this mast. If you feel very confident, you can step it by yourself without anything to lean it against. Most people, however, prefer to do this by leaning it against something or having somebody put their foot against the end of the mast. So I'm going to ask for somebody's help here to show you how to do this. So you take the mast like so, and you place it down here with somebody's foot against the end of it, and at this stage you would start to walk the mast up. Okay, so once the mast is walked up like so, you can take the mast like so. The thing to remember with the mast, and this is where people go very wrong, A lot of people try to put the mast in when the mast is on its side, like so. As soon as you get the mast on its side, it becomes very heavy. So the main thing to remember is, if you keep this upright, it's actually very, very light to hold it in position. The other thing to remember is, a lot of people pick the mast up with the hands very, very close together. And this means that you haven't got any control on the mast. I always try to get my hands as far apart as possible, because you have a lot more control on the angle of the mast. So, if you were not very confident, what you would do is ask somebody to get inside the boat, and you would pass the mast to them. If you're a little bit more confident, you would take the mast like so, lift it up, and put it into the mast gate like so. Now, having got that into there, and you can see at the minute it's just in front of this bolt, I'm then going to place the tabernacle pin through the mast, like so. Once that tabernacle pin's through the mast, so long as there's no wind blowing it backwards, I can actually leave that resting at that point. So what I'm going to do now is, I'm going to take the forestay and I'm going to attach the forestay to the front of the boat. When you do this, you've got to make sure that it's not twisted with anything else. And at the front of the boat here, you have what's called a P-clip. Now, this P-clip should be upright like so, and the forestay should be attached to this. I'm just going to grab a little bit of line for the front of that. So, on the end of your forestay, generally you'll find a little bit of line like so. And when you're attaching the forestay at this stage, you've got to bear in mind that it doesn't want to be tight, because you have to lean the mast back enough to be able to get the shrouds on. So I'm just going to place this rope through here twice, and I'm going to tie it off fairly loosely at the front here, like so. And you can see that's quite loose now. You then push the mast backwards like so, and then we're able then to take the shrouds and attach the shrouds. Now, you should have the pin set to one side already from where you've put it. I would tend to want, on a Wayfarer, to put it in the third pin down at the back of the chain plate here. So I put the pin in like so, and the split ring in like so. So that's that one on. I'll come to the other side. And I'll put this one on here as well. So once you've done this, you'll see these are very slack. At that stage, I would pull the forestay tighter, and I would take the slack out of the shrouds. You don't need a lot of tension in this, but I'm just trying to take the wobble out. So I can tighten that a little bit tighter than it was. And then I just put a couple of half hitches in here just to hold it from moving anywhere. Okay, at this stage, you've put the tabernacle pin in, but you haven't put the other ring or washer onto the other side. So I'm going to put the washer and the other split ring on the other side of the tabernacle. So that goes on like so. Now, this particular mast has trapeze lines on, so I'm going to get these trapeze lines out of the way. Now you need to look up when you've done this, because in standing the mast up, you may have twisted these back up again. So I've just untwisted those now, and I'm going to attach those to the boat. When we attach these to the boat, you'll find a little piece of elastic in here on the end of this block, and you double the end of the elastic over like so, and the elastic then goes through the inside bit of the block there, and it comes through in a little loop like that, which you then pull back through the other way and pass over the bobble like so. So that one's attached. We'll do the other one now. So again, I'm going to take the elastic up, I'm going to fold it over so it makes a loop like that, and then we're going to pass it through the block. We'll take the loop back round like so, and we'll pass the loop over the bobble so that's then secured in the same way much as if you've put a halyard onto the end onto the top of the main, that you would attach the halyard onto the top of the main. Okay, so now the mast is up and in position. On this particular boat, the boat has a spinnaker, but for now I'm just going to take the halyard for the spinnaker and put it underneath the foredeck, because I want to concentrate on rigging the main and the genoa. Okay, so when we're rigging a boat, the first thing that I want to put up is the genoa. So I'm going to grab the genoa, I'm going to attach this onto the boat. So if you take your genoa like so, the luff wire end comes right to the bow, and the first thing I'm going to do is attach the bottom of the luff wire to the furler at the front. So I'm taking this wire like so, and I'm putting the pin through this wire like so. Okay, with the other end, you need to attach the furler to the top. Now this will be a little swivel attached to the top of the jib halyard, or some of you might find this attached to the top of your genoa. So I take this little swivel here, I've taken the pin and the ring out of it, and I'm going to unroll the jib now. So I've unrolled the jib, and I'm going to put the top of the jib into this little swivel at the top. Now you can see the pin goes through like so, and then the ring goes onto the end of that. Now, for a lot of you, you might have something called an easy fill. I'm going to attach an easy fill to this now, and what an easy fill does is it separates the genoa and the forestay, so that when you use the furler, the genoa doesn't get wrapped into the forestay. So I'm just going to grab one of those. So when you have an easy fill has 4 jib hanks on. What you do with 2 of the jib hanks, the first one goes onto the jib wire and you click it onto the jib wire like so. The second one goes onto the jib wire and you click it on like so. So you end up with a triangle like that. After you've done this, you then click it onto the forestay. So the whole system looks a little bit like that. Now we're now ready to raise the genoa. If you look at the bottom of the mast, you will find a jib halyard at the bottom of the mast, and for some people this will be black, for some people this will be white, there may even be some blue ones out there. But you pull the jib halyard and you'll see the genoa starts to go up. When the wire comes out at the bottom, this will come out like so. And if you look up the mast, you will probably find a high field lever. Some people have a slightly different system. Some people would have a cascade system. If you have a cascade system, there's a hook on the bottom of the block, and you would hook this onto the hook on the bottom of the block. But for the people with a high field lever, you hook it onto the high field lever like so. It's very important when doing this that you don't leave the rope on top. So if I were to show you, it's quite common for people to hook it on and leave the rope trapped like that, which is really bad for the rope. So make sure that you take that rope down the side, and then you can adjust the high field lever to give you slightly more tension. So I've just put this up one notch, and then from there, if we push the high field lever, that tensions up your genoa. Now you can see I've got tension in the shrouds now. It's important that when you've tensioned up your genoa, that you've got some tension in those shrouds, because that's supporting the mast. Okay, so now I can actually thread the jib sheets if I want. Now, some of you won't have the jib sheets threaded onto the clew. If you don't, thread them on, tie a knot in the middle so that they're attached to your genoa. Then what you need to do is take one of the jib sheets round one side of the mast and one of the jib sheets round the other. You pass the jib sheet through this plastic fairlead here, and you put it into the middle of the boat. Now when doing so, make sure you put it underneath the boom. On the other side, I'll do the same. And I'll paste it through like that. And I personally like to tie these two sheets together. So I tie it together, and I do this so that whichever side of the boat I'm on, I can get hold of any end of the rope because they're attached together. Okay, so that is your jib rigged. Now if we have a look up the mast at the minute, you'll see that the easy furl is holding the forestay away from the genoa. Right, okay, I'm going to show you now how to furl your genoa. There is, on the starboard side of the boat, there's a little bullseye on the starboard side here and a cleat below it. And when doing this, you need to get hold of the rope that's coming out of that, and that rope is attached to your furler. You also need to keep the jib sheet in one hand. You start to pull the furler like so, and you pull it and pull it. Keep a bit of tension on this sheet. The reason you do that is so that the jib rolls nice and tightly when furling the genoa. Once it's all the way furled, you can then cleat the rope into the cleat there. I'm then going to cleat off the jib sheet so that the jib is not flapping around at the front. Okay, so that is your genoa rigged on the boat. Now the next thing I'm going to do is put the boom onto the gooseneck. Now I'm not ready actually to put the sail up, but I'm going to put it on there so that we can see where the kicker needs to go when rigging the boat. So if you take the front end of the boom and you put the front end of the boom onto this pin, this gooseneck pin. Now you'll slide it onto there like so, and you can then put it upright. Then what I'll do is find the kicker, and the kicker needs to be attached to the mast where this loop is on the bottom of here. This is a kicker tang loop. You should find a shackle either on the end of the bottom of your kicker, or it might be attached to the mast. You undo the shackle, you make sure that the kicker is not twisted, and you shackle this into here. Now, some of you may have more complex kicker systems than this, and if you have, that's fine, but what you'll find is that you might have ropes led back into the boat, and this might be a cascade system rather than a triple block system. It attaches in the same way, either with a shackle, or there may even be a hook on there, but you need to attach it to here. Okay, so that is the kicker on. At this stage, I'm going to check that the main sheet's attached, which on this boat I can see it is. Now the main sheet comes through the ratchet here, through the block on the boom, through this ring at the back, and then if I just lift the boom slightly, you'll see that it comes through this block at the back, down to the block on the bridle, and then it has a stopper knot in the middle of the block at the top. Okay, so we can see that's all rigged properly. I'm going to now take the boom off the gooseneck again. This is just to make it easy for me to slide the sail onto the boom. So I'm going to take that off like so, and I'm going to grab the sail. Okay, so I've got the sail here, and I'm going to slide the sail onto the boom. Now on the top of the boom, you'll see there's a track, and the sail slides in from the front of the track and slides all the way along the boom. When you start to do this, there's a slug on the end of the sail, and the slug goes into the groove in the boom, and then you've got to feed the sail into there as well, and you put it in like so, and then you start to slide the sail along. Okay, so I've slid the sail along. Now the first thing you do, once you've got that on, is you pin the front of the sail. Now at the front of the sail, you'll see there's two eyelets. We use the bottom eyelet, and we line that bottom eyelet up with this hole here. Then you'll find on this side of the boom, there's a pin attached to a piece of rope. You place the pin through that, the hole on this side, through the hole in the sail, and then it comes out of the other side here. Okay, then at the back of the boat, we're going to attach the outhaul. Now at the minute, that's not going to be long enough. If it isn't, you'll find at the other end there's a cleat. And on this is cleated here. You take it out of the cleat and you release it like so. That will give you more length to play with at the other end. So at the other end then, I should be able to pull more outhaul out like I've just done. And I place the outhaul line through the eye in the end of the sail, and I take it through there and hook it onto the back of the boom. Like so. There's a little clip area here, and you just place the knot just below that clip and it pulls in there, so it's very easy to use like that. You'll then find at the back of the boom is your reefing line. Now it's important before you put the sail up, because you won't be able to reach after, that you place the reefing line through the eye in the sail and tie it back onto the other side of the boom. So if you grab the sail and unroll the sail a little bit, you'll find that there's an eye in the sail, probably about a metre up from the bottom. You take the reefing line, you put it through the eye in the sail, like so, and I pull all the slack through, and then I take it down and I tie it back on to the boom at the bottom here. You can use whatever knot you like here, it really doesn't matter. Today I'm going to use a little bowline just to tie this back onto here. So that is now tied back onto the side. Okay, at this stage, the sail is attached and the sail is ready to pull up. What I would say, if you're outside, you must at this stage make sure that the boat is head to wind, so that when you put the sail up, the sail is not flogging on one side. It wants to be head to wind so the sail stays in the middle of the boat. So first off, if you find the main halyard, this could be a number of different colours, so just look for the halyard that's coming right from the very top of the mast, and that'll be your main halyard. You must make sure first that it's not twisted with anything else, so I'm just going to untwist this from there. And at this stage, that main halyard is ready to attach to the sail. To attach this, you unroll the sail like so. And you take the head of the sail like so. Now the head of the sail's got an eye in it. Like we did with the elastic, you fold the end of the rope over, you pass the loop through the head of the sail and then over the bobble and pull tight like so. That should give you a nice tight fixing. If you look on the starboard side of your mast, you'll find a pulley and a cleat somewhere between the gooseneck and the mast gate here. And this is the bottom of the main halyard, so you can start to pull this. When you pull it a little bit, then get the head of your sail and put the head of the sail into the track, like so. Now when pulling this up, number one, if you look at the cleat here, I haven't got the rope in the cleat. A lot of people tend to pull the rope up while it's in the cleat like so. This will wear the teeth on your cleat out very quickly. So keep that rope outside the cleat. And then as you pull the rope, try to feed the sail into the track. So all the time I'm feeding the sail into the track. Now, if you get to a certain point and you're struggling, for instance, I have just done, I've realised that the kicker is on too tight. So I'm going to just slacken the kicker a little bit, and that'll give me some more slack to be able to pull the sail up. I tend to get it to this point, and I put the halyard back in the cleat. I've just done that there. And then I put the boom onto the gooseneck, like so. So that is now in to the gooseneck. Then you can carry on to pull the sail up the last little bit like so. Okay, so that is your sail up and up on the boat. Now I'm just going to tidy up my halyards now in the boat. So I'm just rolling these up and I'm going to place those on this front tank for now, out of the way. Some of you might have an elastic around the mast here, around the tabernacle here and here, and if so, just tuck those halyards into the elastic because that tidies them up nicely. So again, this can be rolled up. I'm just going to place that down there. Okay, so that is your sail up on the boat. Now, the next stage, what I'm going to show you, is how to reef your main, because I think it's really important that people know how to reef the main. So to do this, you come forward to the boat like so, and I'm just going to make sure this line is free because this is going to be used for the reefing. If, just before I start, if this wasn't used for reefing and you didn't want to reef the boat, this is actually the Cunningham. And the Cunningham should pass through this hole here in the sail. So I pass it through there and pass into this cleat here. And that becomes the Cunningham for the sail. But this has two purposes. It's used for the Cunningham, but it's also used when we reef the sail to tie the tack of the sail down when it's reefed. So first thing, when I come to reefing the boat, especially if I'm out sailing and I want to reef the boat, is I take that Cunningham out of the cleat and I take it out of there. The second thing I do is I grab hold of the main halyard, and I take that, and I take the halyard out of the cleat, like so, but I make sure I keep hold of it, otherwise the boom will drop. So I hold it like so, and as I release this, I actually need to pull the reefing line. Now, your reefing line tends to be on starboard, and it comes out the side of the boom through a cleat and into a pulley like so. So as you release the main halyard, you need to pull on the reefing line. So I'm starting to pull on the reefing line like so. If you look at the back of the sail, it's starting to fold the back of the sail up. I keep pulling on this like so. I also need to make sure that the front of the sail is coming down at the same time, and I keep pulling. Okay, so that's the back of the sail done. On the front of the sail, I place the Cunningham through the eyelet that is further up on the sail, and I do that and put the rope through the cleat, back through the cleat that would normally be the Cunningham, and I pull the front of the sail right down like so and cleat it in that position. Then I pull the halyard to pull the sail up as tight as possible, and I then put the halyard back into the cleat. So I'm going to do that now and just make sure that's nice and tight. So that is your sail reefed. However, we need to tidy it up so that there's not all this flogging around when you're sailing. So on the sail, you'll probably find some tiger ties. These are what we call tiger ties. And there's elastic on the other side. So we take the elastic, we place it round the boom underneath, we put it through the tiger tie like so, we pull it, and that tidies that up. Again, the same here, but you've got to make sure you put it between the main sheet and the boom. Otherwise, you'll just cleat your main sheet to the boom, which is never good. And tie that up like so. And then we do the same with the back one. Okay, so that is your sail reefed. And at this point you can see you've got a lot less sail on the boat. The next thing I'm going to do is put the rudder on, because we want the rudder to go sailing. So I've got the rudder here. One thing to learn about the rudder, and this is really important, is on the front of the stock there is what's called a drop nose pin here. Now at the minute, before you put it on, you need to put it straight so it's in line with the pin. You put it straight like so. Then you make sure when you put your rudder on that you put it underneath the bridle, it's very important. And you place the stock onto the back of the boat like so. And you push the stock down. If it's quite new like this one, you might need to give it a little bit of a wiggle just to go all the way. Once it's on, it's really important to put the drop nose pin back across like so. That will stop your rudder falling off if you have a capsize. Okay, you can see on this boat that there is a bung here. This is a breather bung for your hull. It's very important to put that back in before you go sailing. So just tighten that in like so, and that'll seal up the tank. Okay, so that's your rudder on. And really, your boat is now ready, unless you have a spinnaker, to go sailing. Thank you.